it's early, so let's just get to it. Anything you see on the paper now is just gesture drawing, looking at basic shapes, the energy of the pose, and just trying to capture a couple of guidelines. That's as much as I kind of try to do there. If I go a little too rough with it, or a little too labored, I try to erase some of it so I can just kind of start as fresh as possible. But yeah, since this is a likeness, it's just a little bit different, but I figured I gotta do this anyway, so I might as well share it with you, and you might get a little something out of it. Because, you know, it ain't all comics, folks. Alright, I'm gonna shut up a second and just kind of get some shit done. The sound effects on occasion out of my mouth is not for you guys. For entertainment purposes, they literally just happen. Bump. Shoop. Now we're getting somewhere. May look like that at this stage, but it's not meant to be a caricature. But it's not bad to start off that way. Always better to start off crazy. This is by no means crazy, by the way. It's not what I'm really referring to, but what I'm saying is it's always better to start off crazy so you can then just kind of reel it in. Obviously, maybe not obviously. Again, it's exam, very tired. I did not get to do the exercise today. It's Sunday. Today, I do not do that stuff on the weekends. And so it does make these a little longer to kind of wake up and get going. So maybe I should be doing them on the weekends. All right, bud, we're getting there. The moment you start overworking something, then it just becomes this weird academic study that looks like the person, but the energy that the person had isn't there, so therefore the image itself just kind of looks wrong. Energy is a big deal. You know, sometimes if I get a little too anal with this stuff, it looks like an elf right now. If I get too anal with this stuff, then that's when the eraser comes in and I have to start over. But let's try to avoid that, shall we? All right. Don't. A light source. A light source. A light source. Doot. Make sure this is gonna happen. Don't. All right. Screw it. Because you guys have asked. Because you guys have asked, the pens I use for the most part are Pilot parallel pens. If I said that too fast, you can go on Amazon. Boop. There you go. I don't get any money for this, which sucks. But Pilot makes a fantastic pen. It's meant for calligraphy, but you can draw with it. I've used it to replace my quills for the most part. This is a little cleaner guy. Just to kind of, it slides in between the blades and gets out any of the gunk. And there you go. All right. I'm gonna zoom in as much as we can on dude, and hopefully I'm not in the way of the camera. I do tend to smudge my ink quite a bit, which between that and the whiteout is why the tip of my middle finger on the right hand is always stained with something. You knock in a little shadow and then boom, there's your little gradient or rendering. Beautiful part about these pens, and for me in general working with ink, whatever tool you're working with, you can just turn it slightly, just turn it slightly or dab your finger or use it straight on. It's you can accomplish so many textures out of these fucking things. It's just, I love them. You got some hair there, so let's just mark it. I like this. It's why in comics I definitely try to lessen the amount of penciling I do, because you love a little bit of risk, a little bit of living on the edge there. Not everything is mapped out. It also just keeps you paying attention, you know? You know, if the pencils were really tight, and all I was doing was accentuating line, bleh, you know, you get fucking bored. That said, for a penciler, that's definitely as far as things like teeth go. It's just another one of those things where probably unless it's a villain, you tend to not want to draw every fucking tooth because it's just a weird thing to try to comment on right now. But when I was younger, I never knew how to do that. I would just render all the teeth and everybody looked fucking crazy and dirty. Alright, it's time to move this one along. When I say measuring, by the way, different kinds of measuring, it's not the typical proportions and the ovals and the lines and all that stuff, especially when you're going from reference. My measuring in this particular instance was, I see that from the bottom of his lip, if I scoot over, that's where his neck's going to start. And from this point of the neck, I can see that that's pretty on point with the fact that his ear connects to his head here. And then if I just look straight down, boom, there's the neck. It's just trying to eyeball certain landmarks. Landmarks is a good word. There's always kind of a point that you hit fairly early on, like about right here, where I can't lie. You just get you hit this point of like, shit, is this gonna be right? Is this gonna look, did I just waste this little bit of time on this guy? So luckily pretty much every one of those times has been proven wrong as far as the self-doubt goes. But I think like with painting, especially when you just start working so straight on with ink, you tend to have a bit of an ugly stage. And it's in that ugly stage. The ugly stages are great, honestly, because even though it definitely plagues your brain with a little bit of confidence issues, what it does do, should be bigger, buddy. What it does do is brings you to a point of no return where you're like, oh, well, I'm going to have to do something fairly drastic to save this thing. Otherwise, I've just wasted all this time. So the ugly stages are helpful because it kind of helps you man up a little bit. Or artist up. I don't want to be sexist, but See, we're all human, man. We all start working up other parts and jumping the gun. Completely forgetting that this dude has a beard. I mean, maybe it's implied so far that he has a beard, but I was totally ready just to kind of keep going. And the really great part about working in ink and just doing this kind of whole push and pull thing without going super tight with pencils where everything is kind of worked out, the whole benefit to leaving some kind of mystery to it is that, you know, it's just fun. I mean, it definitely gives you a different energy in the piece because you're being fully engaged at the time, you're working it up, you're figuring it out. And for you, unless you just, you know, under the deadline crunch or personally you just kind of want to get it done, for you it really allows a sense of play and a sense of experimentation. Yeah, you can fuck it up and all can go horribly awry. I don't know if this is the approach I'm going to go with for the rest of these illustrations. They may hate the shit out of this thing. But, you know, I'm enjoying it and I'm learning stuff. I'm getting better control. Your eye is constantly improving and seeing things you didn't see before. So much of it is that. So much of it is just experience and working images over and over and over again. And I know that just sounded fairly daunting, but your eye really does begin to see things differently the more you work. Still trying to figure out my my camera rig. It's not perfect. Not that everything has to be perfect, but it's not quite to that comfortable state yet either. So, before I lost any more of you guys, before I started pissing you off, it was just time to jump in, you know. Can't wait for everything to be perfect. Some things you can just tweak as you go. And that has to be the quality of these videos. Too much, too much, too much. No. You want it to accentuate the line art without, you know, I love stark black and white artwork. That's some of my favorites, but if you don't want to do that, or at least if there's a project or a piece or whatever that you don't, it's just not necessarily right for, the spatter and the tone is definitely my preferred method, but you're just doing it for this kind of middle ground light source. You're not just doing it for a graphic look. Wonder how much of all this nonsensical blathering I'm going to edit out of this thing. I'm probably going to have to edit out some of these sound effects. I'm not sticking around too much longer here. We can just get these last accents for the beard. Cut this bad boy in just a little bit. Yep. See, this little laugh line's a little deeper than I thought. All right. See, I got a little junk in the pen, but I'm going to fight through. You come on in there, and then you be more prominent. Chunk. This is the point where I start overworking shit. So, that's what we're going to call it. Cheers.